The auction nobody cared about. The sun above the alien market was red and hot. The air was full of voices shouting prices, machines buzzing, and creatures begging for food or freedom. It was not a place of kindness. It was a place where things, even living beings, were bought and sold. In a dirty corner of the market, a girl sat on the ground. Her wrists were chained. Her skin was pale and bruised. Her head was down. She didn't look up. She didn't speak. She didn't cry. She had already cried too much, and it had changed nothing. A fat alien trader stood behind her. His voice was loud, but no one listened. 10 credits, 10 credits only. Come on, someone take her. Buyers walked by and laughed. She's broken. She won't last a day. She smells like death. Still, the trader kept shouting. He was tired of her. She didn't follow orders. She didn't speak. She barely moved. For weeks, she hadn't eaten properly. She was useless now. He just wanted to get rid of her. Then someone stopped. A man. A human. He wore a brown jacket and old boots. A bag hung from his shoulder. He looked around like he didn't belong. His eyes scanned the cages and corners. And then, they saw her. The alien girl didn't notice him. Her eyes stared at the ground. Her shoulders were shaking, but not from cold. She was trying to breathe quietly, trying to stay small, trying not to exist. The man stepped closer. "What's her story?" he asked the trader. "No story. Worthless junk," the trader said, spitting. "Used. Broken. I'll give her to you for 10 credits. That's a gift." The man said nothing. He looked again at the girl. He crouched beside her. She flinched. He didn't touch her. He just looked. Her face was young, maybe 16, maybe less. There were thin scars along her cheeks. Her hair was tangled and full of dust. Her clothes were torn and didn't fit right. She finally glanced up. Her eyes, large and golden, met his. There was no anger, no hope, no hate, just emptiness and pain. The man stood up. He reached into his pocket and took out 10 credits. The trader laughed. "You're mad, human. 10 credits for garbage." The man didn't respond. He handed over the coins. The trader unlocked the chains and stepped back. "She's yours now. Don't come crying to me when she dies tonight." The girl didn't move. She just sat there confused. The human man bent down again. This time he offered his hand. She stared at it. He waited. Slowly, like a broken puppet, she lifted her hand and touched his. Her fingers were cold, thin, weak. He pulled gently, helping her stand. She almost fell, but he caught her. A few people watched with curious eyes. One alien whispered, "He's wasting his time." Another one said, "Humans are strange." The man didn't care. He guided the girl out of the market. Step by step, she walked with him. She didn't speak. He didn't ask questions. They moved through the dusty streets. The girl's knees trembled. She had no shoes. Her feet left bloody marks behind them. He noticed, stopped at a small shop, and bought her slippers. He knelt to put them on her feet himself. She stared down at him in shock. No one had done anything like this for her before. They kept walking. The man brought her to his small home at the edge of the city. It wasn't much. Just one room, a bed, a table, and a tiny kitchen, but it was warm and safe. He sat her down on the bed and gave her water. She drank slowly, afraid he might take it away. He didn't. He brought her clean clothes. Simple ones. Soft ones. She took them without a word. In the corner of the room there was a blanket. She crawled under it and curled up like a frightened child. He sat on the chair and watched the night sky through the window. She was silent. But she was breathing and alive, and with him now. She didn't speak for days. The alien girl slept on the floor, even though the man had offered her the bed. She had curled up like a small animal under the blanket, her body still shaking at times. The man didn't force her. He let her choose. She didn't speak the next morning, not even one word. The man, whose name was Joran, didn't try to push her. He cooked something simple, warm broth and bread, and left the bowl on the table near her. She didn't touch it at first. She just stared at it, suspicious. Joran stepped outside and gave her space. When he returned, the bowl was empty, but she had already gone back under the blanket. No sound, no eye contact, no trust. The next day was the same. And the day after. No words, no questions. But she ate. Slowly, carefully. Joran began leaving small things near her: a clean towel, a soft brush for her tangled hair, a pair of slippers that actually fit. He said nothing while placing them down. He just let them be. One night, while sitting near the window, he heard something behind him. A cough. He turned quickly. The girl was sitting upright, looking weak but awake. He didn't move too fast. He nodded. "You okay?" She blinked. No answer, but her hands were holding the brush. Her hair was still messy, but now it had been brushed through, just once, maybe twice. Progress. Joran smiled just a little. "Name's Joran," he said softly. "I fix things. Old ships. Broken machines." He looked at her carefully. "I don't know your name," he said. "But that's okay. You don't have to tell me." Her head lowered. Her hands trembled. She still said nothing. By the fourth day, she was standing on her own. She walked to the sink. Slowly, like her body didn't trust itself. She washed her hands, then her face. She stared at the water as if seeing it for the first time. Her reflection in the mirror made her step back in fear. She didn't recognize herself. Thin, dirty, eyes sunken. She touched her face. The scars were still there. She turned away from the mirror and sat down quietly. Joran placed a small bowl of soup in front of her again. She ate slowly, almost respectfully. Then she looked at him, just for a second. Her eyes held a question. "Why? Why are you helping me?" Joran saw it in her face. He gave a quiet smile. "Because I've been broken too," he whispered. "And someone helped me once." That night, she had a nightmare. She cried out in a strange language, twisting under the blanket. Her hands reached out like she was falling. Joran rushed over and gently touched her shoulder. "You're safe," he said softly. "You're not there anymore. You're safe now." She gasped, eyes wide with fear. She grabbed his arm tight like she thought he would disappear. And then, in a small, hoarse voice, she spoke, not in her own language, but in his. "Where am I?" Joran blinked in surprise. "You're in my home." She looked around, breathing hard. "You bought me?" she whispered. "I freed you," he replied. She stared at him like she didn't understand the difference. He waited. "I was a soldier," she said softly. Her voice cracked. "Then a prisoner." Her hands gripped the blanket. "They said I was trash." Joran shook his head. "You're not trash." She looked away. "Everyone said I was." "Not everyone," Joran said. "Not anymore." In the days that followed, she began to change. Very slowly. She sat at the table now when she ate. She wore the soft clothes he gave her. She even brushed her own hair. Still no smile, but her eyes didn't always look dead. And one morning, she asked in a small voice, "Why did you pay for me?" Joran thought for a long second. Then he said, "Because you were alone. And no one should be left alone like that." She didn't respond, but her hands gripped her cup tightly, and, from that day on, she began looking at him, not with fear, but with something close to curiosity. Scars beneath her skin. The girl had begun to speak, but only a little. Her voice was soft, broken like her body, but still there. Joran never asked her name again. He waited for her to tell it when she was ready. He noticed things. She didn't, like loud noises. She jumped when someone knocked at the door. She never turned her back to a window, but she was trying. One evening, as the sun dipped low and red outside the small home, Joran brought out his old toolkit. He placed a broken drone on the table and began fixing it. The girl watched him from across the room. "Was it a fighter drone?" she asked suddenly. Joran paused, surprised. "Yeah. How'd you know?" She got up slowly and walked over. Her hand pointed to a small plate on the side of the drone. "Combat tag," she said. "This model is used for close-range airstrikes." Joran smiled. "You really were a soldier." She didn't smile back. "I used to repair bigger ones that could tear cities apart." There was a long silence. Then she asked, "Do you have a scanner?" Joran nodded. He opened a drawer and handed her a small medical scanner. "I think there's a chip inside me," she said quietly. "Back here." She turned and pulled her collar down, showing the base of her neck. Joran hesitated but scanned carefully. The scanner beeped. There it was, buried deep under her skin. A small ID chip. Joran stared at the screen. "This isn't just a slave tag," he said. "It's encrypted military data." The girl's body tensed. She looked down. "I don't remember all of it, but I think they were tracking me." Joran looked closer. "This code, it belongs to the Zurian Empire." Her breath caught. "That's impossible," she whispered. "I served under the Alliance." "You did," Joran said. "But this chip is Zurian. That means someone reprogrammed." "You?" She staggered back, falling onto the bed. They turned me into something else." Joran sat beside her, careful not to get too close. "I think they erased parts of your mind, maybe replaced them with false commands." "Then who am I?" she asked, voice cracking. "What if I'm not even me?" Joran gently placed the scanner on the table. "You're whoever you choose to be now," he said. "Not what they made you." Tears rolled down her cheeks. She wiped them quickly, as if crying was a weakness. "I don't know how to be anyone anymore." "You don't have to know," he said. "You just have to start." Later that night, when Joran was half asleep, he heard her moving. She had gone through his toolkit and found a mirror shard. She held it close, staring at her reflection. Then, with slow, shaky hands, she began to remove the metal collar around her neck. She worked carefully. She didn't ask for help. She didn't scream when it cut her. Blood slid down her fingers, but she didn't stop. When the collar finally came off, she dropped it on the floor. It made a heavy final sound. Joran woke fully and sat up. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, and for the first time she said, "My name is Kale." Joran blinked. "Kale," he repeated softly. "It's a strong name." She didn't respond, but she didn't deny it either. The next morning, Joran found her staring at the stars from the window. "Why did they keep me alive?" she asked. "I don't know," he replied. "But I think they were afraid of what you might remember." Kale looked at her scarred hands. "I was supposed to be a hero. Then I became nothing." "No," Joran said. "You became someone they couldn't break. That's different." Her eyes locked onto his. "They might come for me." "Let them," he said simply. "They'll find I'm not easy to break either." The soldier. She used to be Joran watched Kyle from the workshop doorway. She stood, in front of the old combat drone. Tools in her hands, eyes focused, fingers steady. She didn't shake anymore. It had been 5 days since she removed the collar. 5 days since she spoke her name. Now she worked beside Joran, not as a slave, not even as a guest, but as someone finding herself again. "This model's energy core is misaligned," Kale said, adjusting the panel. "It'll overload if fired twice in a row." Joran grinned. "You just earned my entire paycheck. Want the tools full time?" She didn't laugh, but a flicker of something, almost a smile, touched her lips. Later that day, Kale sat by the wall, staring at a piece of paper Joran had found. It was an old photo of soldiers from the Alliance War. Joran had kept it out, of habit. His brother had served. Kale's eyes locked onto one face in the photo, her own. Hair cleaner, eyes sharper, posture straight. A patch on her uniform said, LT. Kale Verena. Strike Unit 17. She touched the image gently. I remember her, she whispered. But she feels like a ghost now. Joran pulled a chair next to her. She's still in you, he said. Maybe lost, maybe buried. But she's there. Kale looked at him. Do you think I can ever be her again? He shook his head. Think you can be stronger than her? That night the power went out. Joran lit a lantern, but Kale was already on her feet, body tense, eyes scanning every corner of the room. What's wrong? He asked. She whispered. This isn't just a blackout. Outside, a drone passed overhead. Joran's heart raced. Are they looking for you? Kale nodded slowly. They're scanning homes, quietly. She stepped to the wall, reached behind a shelf and pressed something hidden. A small panel opened. Inside were old weapons. Rusty, damaged but dangerous. Joran blinked. You hid these? Instinct, she said. Guess I was more soldier than I thought. A few minutes later, a soft knock came at the door. Not loud, too soft. Kyle grabbed one of the old pistols and stood silently near the wall. Joran opened the door slowly. A small alien child stood there, dirty, alone, crying. I lost my mom, he whispered. Please. Kale stepped forward, lowered her gun, and knelt. She didn't speak. She just reached out her hand. The child stared at her, eyes wide with fear. Kale smiled. It was tiny, weak, but real. You're safe here, she said gently. The boy took her hand. Later, as the child slept on the couch, Joran turned to Kale. You didn't hesitate. I saw myself in him, she said. I remember the night I begged someone to help me, and no one did. Joran looked down. Until you came, she added quietly. He met her eyes. She looked stronger now, like something inside her had woken up. The next day, Kale went into Joran's storage room. She pulled out parts, metal, wire, armor plates. What are you building? He asked. Armor, she replied. Lightweight, hidden plates. I might need it. For what? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, if the Zurians are searching for me, it means I still matter. You think they're scared of what you remember? Kale nodded. Or what I might do if I remember everything. That evening, she opened up the base of her neck herself. Joran tried to stop her. You could hurt yourself. I was trained for field surgery, she replied. I just forgot. With shaking fingers, she pulled the small chip out. Blood ran down her back, but she didn't cry. She placed the chip on the table. That was the last chain. Joran helped her clean the wound. You're free now, he said. Kale shook her head. Not yet, but I'm closer. As night fell, again, she stood at the window and whispered something to herself. Joran heard only 2 words. I'm back. Someone wants her back. Dead Kale stood in the early morning light, armor half finished and eyes wide open. She hadn't slept. Not because she couldn't, but because her instincts screamed danger. Something was coming. Joran noticed it too. The city felt different. Quiet but not peaceful. People were whispering. Shops opened late. Streets were less crowded. Something was wrong. When Joran went to the market for supplies, he noticed a holographic screen blinking above the center square. He froze. The image was Kale, but not the weak, broken girl he had rescued. This was a military photo, Kale in her uniform, serious, strong, and wanted. A message blinked underneath in 3 languages. Wanted, Kyle Verena, defected soldier, armed and dangerous. 500,000 credits. Dead. Dead. Not alive, not captured, just dead. Joran returned home fast. She was already waiting at the door. "You saw it?" she asked quietly. He nodded. "Who would offer that much?" "Zurians," Kale replied. "They know I'm alive, and they don't want me to speak." Joran looked confused. "But why kill you now? You've been gone for so long." Kyle walked to the table and opened the small pouch where she had hidden the chip she removed. "I remember something," she whispered. "Not everything, but a piece." She placed the chip on the table. "This chip isn't just ID. It holds battle codes, command signatures, proof of war crimes, things they erased from official records." Joran stared. "You're saying this chip is a weapon?" Kyle nodded. "A quiet one, but deadly for the ones in power." Suddenly, the security alarm Joran had installed beeped twice. Then silence. Kale's eyes narrowed. "They're here." Outside, a black transport hovered silently above the rooftops. 3 armored figures dropped from it, landing without a sound. Their armor glowed faint red. Zurian elite assassins. They didn't knock. They blew the door open. But Joran and Kale weren't. Inside, they were already moving. Down the back alley, shadows hiding them. "They'll track the heat trail," Kale said. "We have 2 minutes." "Where do we go?" "Somewhere I never wanted to return." They ran through the underground pipes of the old city, a maze of rusted metal, steam vents, and dripping walls. Kale moved fast, like she'd memorized the path years ago. She stopped at a steel door and pulled off the panel. Inside was a switch. She flipped it. The door hissed open. Joran followed her into darkness. "What is this place?" he asked. She lit a glow stick. The room lit up faintly. It was a bunker, old, forgotten, but filled with things. Broken weapons, maps, old uniforms, and a cracked screen showing satellite feeds. Kale looked around and whispered, "This was my safe house, when I was still Kale the soldier." Joran sat down on a metal crate. "They really want you dead." She nodded. "Because they know if I talk, people will listen. Soldiers who vanished. Civilian deaths covered up. Missions that were lies." "But you don't remember all of it yet," Joran said. Kale picked up a map and stared at it. "I don't have to. I just have to survive long enough to make them afraid." She turned to him. "And you should leave. This isn't your fight." Joran stood up. "You were worth 10 credits to them. That means they never saw your worth. But I did. And I'm not going anywhere." For the first time, Kale didn't argue. She simply whispered, "Thank you." An hour later, another explosion rocked the upper district. More Zurian soldiers had landed. The bounty had gone public. Now bounty hunters joined the hunt. Kale and Joran weren't just targets, they were prey. But this time, Kale wasn't running. She strapped on the new armor she had built herself, fitted a new core to her pulse gun, and tied her hair back like she once did as a soldier. Joran handed her a comlink. "What's the plan?" She looked out at the screen, showing enemy movements, and said just 4 words. "We make them bleed." She stands again. The city lights flickered as dusk fell. Sirens echoed far off. Ships moved across the sky like dark birds hunting prey. But deep beneath the streets, Kyle was no longer hiding. She was preparing. Joran tightened the straps on her arm guard. "You sure about this?" Kale's eyes didn't waver. "I've been running for too long. They called me broken. They buried me, but I'm still alive." Joran looked at her, stronger now, fiercer. Not the same girl he bought for 10 credits. This was a warrior reborn. She stepped into the center of the bunker and activated the old projector. A holographic map lit the room. 3 bounty hunters, she said, pointing to blinking red dots. 2 Zurian assassins and a command drone hovering above District 7. Joran studied the screen. "They're closing in." Kale nodded. "And we'll make them regret it." She picked up her rebuilt rifle. It was a bit old, a bit heavy, but it worked. She'd fixed it herself. Then she opened a small crate. Inside were explosives, smoke, bombs, signal jammers, tools of war, tools of someone who had finally stopped being a victim. That night the trap was set. Joren stood at the decoy building, triggering fake movement signals. Meanwhile, Kale took position on a rooftop across the alley. Through her scope, she saw the first bounty hunter arrive. A lizard-like alien, armored, scanning the building below. He never saw her. One silent shot. He dropped without a sound. The second was smarter. Cloaked tracker who used thermal vision. But Kale had lured him into a tunnel laced with cold mist and mirrored walls. He fired at her reflection. She took him down from behind. The third came with a drone, a floating eye that scanned everything around him. But Kale had already hacked the drone's signal. The moment he tried to fire, his drone turned on him and exploded. Joren watched from the safe zone, eyes wide. "You're really doing it." Kyle's voice came through the comlink. "I'm remembering more with every step." Just before midnight, the two Zurian assassins entered the city. Silent, deadly. They weren't hunters for money, they were killers sent by the Empire. They moved together, blending with shadows. Kale waited for them in the old spaceport ruins. When they entered, she dropped behind them. No gun. Just her hands. One of them turned too late. She used their own blade against them, swift and brutal. The second leapt toward her, claws drawn, hissing in fury. She took a deep cut to her side, but rolled, twisted, and stabbed upward into his chest. Blood hit the floor, and Kale stood, shaking but alive. Joren ran to her side. "You're bleeding." Kale held her side. "It's not deep." He ripped off his shirt and wrapped it around her waist. "Not deep," he muttered. "Sure." She looked at him. "You stayed," he smiled. "I don't leave people behind." She chuckled, just a little. Her first laugh since he met her. By dawn, the bounty alerts were gone. The hunters were dead, the drone destroyed. But Kale knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. "They'll send more," she said. Joren nodded. "Then we'll be ready." She looked at the rising sun. "I used to be scared of the light because it showed my scars. And now?" he asked. "Now I let the world see them," she said. "Because they didn't break me. They made me stronger." She had stood again. Not because someone gave her power, but because someone reminded her she still had it inside. The broken girl who saved a planet. The Zurian Empire was not silent for long. After their best hunters failed, after 2 elite assassins didn't return, they sent something worse. A warship. Small, fast, and deadly. It entered orbit above the city without warning. It broadcast one message: "Surrender Kale Virina, or this city will burn." The people panicked. Alarms screamed, streets emptied. Fear spread like fire. Kale watched the sky from the edge of the old spaceport. Her armor, scratched, her body bandaged, her rifle ready. But she didn't flinch. Joren stood beside her. "We have to leave. They'll destroy everything." "No," Kyle said. "This is my fault. If I run again, more people will die." He grabbed her arm. "Then what? You go up there and die alone?" She turned to him. "Not alone." She walked back into the bunker and opened the encrypted file from the chip, the one they tried to erase from her. Inside were old codes, targeting commands, coordinates for Zurian bases hidden in neutral zones, places they weren't supposed to be. Proof of betrayal, proof of war crimes. "Help me send this," she said, "to every free system, every reporter, every soldier who still believes in truth." Joren nodded. "Let's show the galaxy who you really are." They connected to an old uplink tower. Joren typed fast. Kale's fingers shook slightly as she uploaded the files. Her voice was calm as she recorded a message. "My name is Kyle Virena. I was buried as trash. Forgotten. Sold for 10 credits. But I am not broken. I am a soldier, and I remember everything. This is the truth the Empire tried to erase. They sent it to everywhere." Minutes later, space comms lit up across nearby planets. Ships turned, allies responded. Some systems raised Kale's symbol, the old banner of the Alliance. Inside the Zurian warship, alarms began to scream. "Sir, broadcast. Incoming from hundreds of sources. Her message is spreading. Fast," the Zurian commander growled. "Shut it down." But it was too late. The truth had already escaped. Down on the surface, Kale looked up as the warship began charging its main cannon. Joran grabbed her hand. "We need to hide." She shook her head. "No, I need to end this." She activated a device in her armor, something she built using old tech. A pulse beacon, targeted, powerful, and connected to the very codes the Empire had once implanted in her chip. "I'm done running," she said. She aimed the signal straight at the warship and fired. In space, the warship's systems went crazy. Engines stopped, cannon lights faded, doors shut. Then, silence. The ship hovered, powerless, crippled. Kyle fell to her knees, drained. "It worked," she whispered. Days passed. The city repaired itself, and Kyle became something more than a wanted name. She became a symbol, to the slaves still waiting, in chains, to the soldiers who thought they were forgotten, to the people who were told they had no value. She had been sold for 10 credits. Now she was priceless. She stood before a crowd one evening, her scars showing, her armor shining in the setting sun. Joran stood beside her, proud, and she spoke simply. "I was called broken, but I healed. I was called worthless, but I chose to rise. And if you are out there, hiding, hurting, thinking no one sees you, remember this. Someone will. Someone will." Later, in the quiet of her small home, Kale sat by the window. Joran brought her a cup of warm tea. She looked at him, peaceful now. "I used to think no one would ever see me," she said softly. He smiled. "I didn't just see you. I believed in you." She took his hand gently, and that saved me. She was never broken. She was waiting for the moment when she would rise. And when she did, she changed everything. Forever. The end.